I'm going to explain in this video how I went from this to this. Not only did I not have to train my abs, I also was able to eat anything I wanted. All of the foods that I liked, I continued to consume. Obviously, there was a limit to how much. The methods I used to get abs involve no gimmicks, no starvation, no fasting, no carb cycling, nothing complicated. When you understand exactly what is required of the body to get six-pack abs, it suddenly appears really simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, really is simple. The huge misunderstanding is that you need to have incredibly strong abdominal muscles. You need to do 1,000 sit-ups a day, loads of crunches, and all these complex ab routines. That is not true. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly what the truth is and what you really need to do to actually get a six-pack. I know it's correct, I know it works. I got a six-pack, as you can see in the pictures. Small disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I am not a medical professional. I don't know if I have to say this, but I'm saying it just in case.
Can somebody tell that damn dog to be quiet?
If you are unsure of anything, diet-wise or training-wise, speak to a professional before you start anything new. This video is going to be broken down into 5 parts. I will actually explain what is required of the human body to get six-pack abs. I will then explain a couple of things that are required from you. There are a few things you need to understand and accept if you want to go down this path. I will then go over the basic steps that you need to follow in order to actually get the six-pack abs.
Let me just check what I got written in my notes here.
Then I will give you a couple of really useful tips that will make the whole process a lot easier. And then we will finish off with one really crucial piece of advice. We'll call it the... what will we call it? What did I name it? It's like... Then we will finish the video by talking about one really crucial piece of guidance that I think everyone should understand, not just when pursuing six-pack abs, but when starting anything new in their life. So to give you a bit of background, when I was in my teens, I was fairly slim. Certainly wasn't naturally muscular, and I wasn't naturally very lean. I went on the pursuit of six-pack abs several times, doing hours of sit-ups a day, doing all the crunches, doing all the leg raises, doing ridiculous amounts of cardio, and eating what I believed to be the correct foods to be healthy and to be fit, but I was never seeing the results. I never got the six-pack in my teens. I just used to get really frustrated, really burnt out. My abs were sore. My abs got trained really hard. Doing all this ab training, I've not even got a 2-pack, let alone a 4-pack. So what is it I'm doing wrong? I thought, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I'm just not designed to look this way, so I gave up. It's such a sad story. I tried a couple of times, gave up. Like I tried, I gave up. Then I tried and I gave up. And it wasn't until I was about 22 years old and I continued exercising, I continued going to the gym and I continued being quite active. Sorry, my mouth's getting a bit dry. Yes, this bottle is incredibly big and I like to have it because I only need to fill it up once a month. That's obviously a joke. I got talking to this guy at the gym. He was in some kind of stage performance and he had a topless part in the play. So he wanted to be really ripped for this particular scene, this particular part. And he was talking about how he got ripped at the gym and he was showing people the pictures and stuff like that. And we got chatting and I was looking at these pictures and I said, how did you get your abs to be so visible like that? You must have done like loads of crunches and loads of sit-ups. His answer really surprised me because he just said, nah, I don't really do much ab training. I had to go on a really strict diet, get all the fat off my body, and then my abs were visible.
Huh? What?
And I was like, oh yeah, of course you had to get really lean. Like acting like I know what I'm talking about. But with some renewed enthusiasm and a bit of curiosity, I decided to start trying to do a bit of reading and trying to understand body fat percentage in relation to having visible abs. I found out through my reading that if you want to have six-pack abs, for a male at least, your body fat needs to be less than 10%. Here are some examples of males at different body fat percentages. As you can see, the top 3 picks all have visible abs. 7% or lower is quite tough to achieve and maintain, but around 8 or 9% is ideal. What we mean by that is 10% of your overall body mass or less needs to be made up of fat, and the rest of it will be bones, muscles, organs, skin, and the other things that make up humans. The question is now, how do I get below 10% body fat so that my abs become visible? To get below 10% body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit for a sustained period of time. A calorie deficit is basically when you are consuming fewer calories than you need to perform your daily life. Here's a definition I found online. A calorie deficit is the energy shortfall that results from using more energy than you absorb from food. It's the key to weight loss. When you create a calorie deficit, your body is forced to meet this energy shortfall using stored energy from body fat, stored fat, muscle protein, stored protein, or glycogen, stored carbs. If we are burning off more calories than we consume overall, then the additional energy that we need, the body can't get from food, so it will take it from elsewhere in the body, i.e. additional fat. Huh? It's that simple. Well, I'm glad that we understand that. You want to do this, and if you are serious about getting a six-pack, there are a couple of things you need to understand and accept. Not everyone's going to like these things, and once I explain to you what these couple of things are, if you're not prepared to accept them and you are not prepared to implement them, then you are not going to be able to follow this strategy to get six-pack abs. Maybe you should go and read a copy of Men's Health instead, where you are promised six-pack abs in 6 minutes. The first thing that you need to understand and accept is you need to track and log every single thing you eat in an app called MyFitnessPal, with the exception of some vegetables. I will come back to that later. I think there are alternatives, but MyFitnessPal was what I used. A lot of people don't want to do that, especially if they're eating 4 or 5 meals a day. I haven't got time to log all my food. Well, you will. Then you don't have time to have a six-pack then, sorry. Number 2, it depends on your starting point and how much fat you have to begin with, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a week or two, and for a lot of people, it won't even happen in a month or two. It's going to be a long process. Got it? Good. The third thing that you need to understand and accept, you will lose some strength, you will lose some muscle, and that's okay. It's just a side effect, unfortunately, of being in a prolonged calorie deficit, because your body won't just take energy from your fat stores, it will also take from your glycogen stores, and to a certain extent from your muscles as well. And the fourth and final thing, once you've got a lot of the fat off, and you are actually quite lean, you might be around 11-12% body fat, which is far leaner than most men, people will say, oh, the diet's finished now, right? And when you say, no, I don't have a six-pack yet, so I need to continue dieting, you will hear comments like, you're pushing it too far. This is becoming an obsession, isn't it? It's not healthy. People will say these things, and to a certain extent, they're kind of right. I mean, 11 or 12% body fat is perfectly healthy, and you look pretty good at that kind of body fat. If you want a six-pack, you will need to have to push through those negative comments. The rewards at the end will be worth it, trust me. Let's now talk about the steps you actually have to follow to get your six-pack abs. The first thing that you need to do is you need to follow a weightlifting routine. 3 to 4 times a week, you have to lift weights. You need to do your best to maintain your muscle mass. When you're in a caloric deficit, as I mentioned before, your body will try to take energy from everywhere it can, including your muscles. If you continue to lift weights, you will minimize the amount of muscle that you lose. That is a thumbs up, because we want to maintain as much muscle mass as we can and lose as little as possible during this process. The routine at the gym needs to focus on squats, bench press, deadlifts, and military presses. Those are big compound movements, and just using those 4 exercises alone, you can train your whole body. This is one of the reasons that you don't need to do 1,000 sit-ups or crunches every day. Because when you train your back doing deadlifts, or you train your legs doing squats, your core and your abdominal muscles are getting engaged so much during that it keeps them developed, it keeps them working. So when the fat is gone, the abs are developed. When I got a six-pack, I never trained my abs, and the results speak for themselves. Step number 2, you need to work out exactly how many calories you need to consume. Now, this can seem quite intimidating at first, but basically you need to find an online calculator and input some information which will give you a rough guide of how many calories you need. I will leave a link in the description to one you can use. But this is just a rough guide. Everyone's body is different, and no online calculator can give you a precise and accurate number of calories that you need. But it's a good starting point. Let's say you've chosen 2,500 calories. That's the number you were given by the online calculator. On day 7, when you weigh yourself after having eaten 2,500 calories every day for a week, you have gained 300 grams. Okay? That's a weight gain, you're going in the wrong direction. So try reducing your calories to maybe 2,000. Right, take 500 away. and that will probably bring you to just about in a deficit. For some people that may still be, you might be roughly even and your weight might stay the same from week to week. This is where you need to experiment and find out. And number 3, you need to track your progress week to week to understand exactly how much weight you're losing so that you can make adjustments going forward to ensure that you continue to go in the right direction. You need to ensure that you are using digital scales so that you can accurately measure your weight from week to week, because you need to know it to the gram, basically. So if you're 75.1 kilos and the next week you're 75.2 kilos, that's a gain of 100 grams. Analog scales aren't going to give you that level of detail, so you do need digital scales to do this. The amount of weight loss we're aiming for is between 300 grams and 600 grams per week. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, because it's not, because this is a long-term thing. But if you lost 300 grams a week for 12 weeks in a row, that would be 3.6 kilos. That's pretty good, especially as that's 3.6 kilos of actual weight that you will keep off. If you're losing 600 grams a week, then over 12 weeks, that's 7.2 kilos, and that's really significant. And somewhere in between that is realistically where most people are going to be. Around half a kilo a week is absolutely perfect. If you're able to test your body fat every 2 or 3 weeks, then that's really great. I wouldn't suggest doing it on any of these bathroom scales that give you a body fat percentage, because they're normally quite inaccurate. But if you know a personal trainer that can measure your body fat with skin calipers, then I would highly recommend that you get that done every couple of weeks, because that's a really, really good indicator of how much fat you're losing. Though I understand most people don't have access to that kind of resource, so most people will just need to stick to using the mirror, using a tape measure to take their measurements, and observing the weight on the scales, taking progress photos, etc. But make sure you're keeping on top of your weight and your appearance every single week so that you know you are going in the right direction. Okay, that's it. That is how you get a six-pack. It is really not that complicated. You just need to do the things I've outlined. Number 1, you need to lift heavy weights a minimum of 3 times a week, focusing on full body compound movements. You can add in cardio if you want, but it's not the be all and end all, although it is really helpful and can speed up the process a little bit. Number 2, you need to identify the calories that you require to get into a calorie deficit, and you need to ensure that you are losing between 300 and 600 grams a week. You need to check your progress weekly to ensure that you are going in the right direction and make adjustments as and when needed. Number 4, I didn't actually give you a number 4 before, but I'm telling you now, number 4 is do this consistently over a long period of time and you will get a six-pack. Everyone's journey is going to be a different length, but if you do it for long enough, you will get there. The process is super simple, as you now understand, because you've watched the video this far. You now know how to get a six-pack. The following tips will make it just a little bit easier and make the road possibly not as rough or bumpy. Firstly, you can eat what you want. You haven't got to just be eating lettuce and dry chicken breasts all the time.
Do I look like a damn rabbit to you? This rabbit food. Ain't no rabbit got no six-pack abs.
Eat the foods that you like while remaining in a calorie deficit. Don't go over your calories. Make sure that you stay under every day. And what you eat isn't the be-all and end-all. I would suggest keeping your protein quite high, because having additional protein can help reduce the amount of muscle you lose. Every high-calorie meal that you love has a healthy, lower-calorie, tasty alternative. I promise you. I really believe this is true. And anyone who thinks it's not true, leave a comment and tell me the thing that you love the most that you think you would have to sacrifice to get a six-pack. And I will tell you a way that you can eat it in a low-calorie, tasty, and perfectly manageable way. I promise. I don't think there's a single food that can't be incorporated into your diet if you do it in moderation and in a sensible way. Feel free to leave a comment and see if you can prove me wrong. The other thing that you can do to make this journey a lot easier is have a cheat meal once a week, or a cheat day. So a cheat meal is normally one meal a week where you eat whatever you want. Some people choose to have an absolutely enormous cheat meal, where they'll have a large pizza, a milkshake, ice cream, and they can sometimes have like 4 times their normal daily caloric intake in one meal. And I've tried it, and it's kind of enjoyable at the time, but then the day after you feel really gross, you actually feel a bit rough, sometimes you even get a bit of a headache, and it takes quite a few days to recover and to start feeling normal again and to get back into kind of the rhythm of trying to get a six pack. So I really wouldn't recommend that you do that. I like to do it on a Friday normally, when I will have one meal. It takes my overall calories for that day around 30 to 40% higher than usual. Just for an example, if you're consuming 2,000 calories a day, then you can have one day a week where you have maybe 2,800 calories, and that gives you the freedom to include a bit more food, or maybe eat all day quite normally and then in the evening have a slightly bigger, less healthy dinner. Taking the time to have one meal a week that you really enjoy with slightly higher calories, I think is totally worth it. It's to help keep you sane, to give you something to really look forward to, because being in a caloric deficit for a long time is quite uncomfortable, and it can sometimes feel tiring, and you think, oh, I just want to eat more food, and it can be difficult sometimes to stay motivated. Another really good tip is, if you start to feel really hungry during your diet and you're struggling between each meal because you just feel too hungry, increase the amount of water you consume and increase the amount of veg you consume. I mentioned earlier that when you are counting your calories, you need to count absolutely everything except some vegetables. Now, this is the point where I will explain what I meant by that. Broccoli, carrots, peas, cauliflowers, Brussels sprouts, all these kinds of really fiber-rich vegetables, I personally don't count. When I'm logging my food in MyFitnessPal, if I've got rice, chicken and broccoli, I count the chicken and I count the rice, but I do not count the broccoli. There's a couple of reasons for that. First reason is that I think if you start to count the calories of your vegetables, what you will start to do is you will start to reduce the amount of vegetables you intake so that you can have more rice or you can have more chicken. And that's not something you want to do, because then you take in fewer vitamins, less fiber. They have so few calories anyway, it's really meaningless. No one ever got fat or didn't get a six pack because they ate too much broccoli. No, this doesn't include potatoes. Swede, sweet potatoes and normal potatoes, yes, are vegetables, but you do need to count those because they're quite starchy and high in calories. No, you can't do that. Sorry. Another tip that I think is really useful and something to keep in your mind right from the start is that you will mess up, and that's okay. There will be days when you go over on your calories. There will be workouts you miss, and there will be things that go wrong. Life happens. There will be social events. You may have some alcohol sometimes, whatever it may be. That's okay. Accept that those things happen, get over them quickly and get back on track. When I went on my journey from starting where I was to getting a six pack, there were plenty of times in between when I messed up. The key thing is that you get back on track as quickly as possible and continue going in the right direction. Okay, and I said at the beginning of the video, there was one particular piece of advice that I think is really, really important. It is unwise to start all of the things I've just outlined at the same time. So if you don't currently exercise, you don't currently track your food, you don't currently eat healthily, you don't currently do any cardio, I think it would be a very bad idea to start all of these things at once. It will be hard to integrate it into your life, and after a few weeks, you'll probably just stop. If you don't currently exercise at all, start by doing regular weight training 3 times a week. Once you get the knack of incorporating that into your life and you make it a regular habit, then include cardio. Once you've got those 2 things down, start trying to eat more healthily. Once you feel confident doing all these things, then you can start tracking your food in your app, start counting your calories. I really believe that the key to success is making small changes, so implement one of these things at a time. Okay, so I think that's everything now. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them down in the comment section and I will get back to you. Subscribe if you found this video useful, it really helps out the channel. And until next time, see you later.